Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. David Granite, and welcome to Health Matters. Today we're going to have a little fun and talk about health with somebody who I think you're really going to enjoy, Dr. Paul Saltman. Dr. Saltman's a professor of biology here at the University of California, San Diego, but he's really a teacher, someone who's interested in the field of health and who can talk to you in a way you might not have heard before. He's won the first ever career lifetime teaching award at the University of California, San Diego, and recently has published a book called the UCSD Nutrition Book, and now gives a course online on the internet, which we'll see if we can't get you that website in a couple of minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, David.
We were just talking before we started filming about medicine, science, and society. And let's talk a little bit about what the responsibility of people is for their own lives, or the lifestyle decisions they make and how it affects their health.
Well, that's that's why we're here, and we can't do it quite in 25 minutes, start to finish. But let's begin with to me, what the fundamental concept is for each one of us, personally and individually, as we come onto this earth with a certain set of genes. That's part of our human potential. We're born with that. Mom and Dad gave us those. Someday soon, or late, medicine and science will give us a chance to alter those if those genes don't function right for us.
So terrific. If I'm sitting at home, I don't have to worry about anything, I don't have to do anything. I'll just wait for medicine to give me new genes.
That's right. Wait, my genie will come, right? Okay? But at the same time we have that, we also have a second set of impacts in our lives. The environment that is created by the physical world, the chemical world, and the biological world. And that encompasses all kinds of things, from the crazy radiation that we receive from cosmic rays or X-rays or, God forbid, atomic war or whatever, or the physical activities of a bullet ripping through flesh or of an automobile crashing into a concrete above. Those are physical forces that affect the genes profoundly.
Sure, and some of those we have no control over. We live on the planet Earth.
Right.
We can't live in a lead suit to protect ourselves from cosmic rays.
Right.
But some of them we do have control over.
We have control over. And that brings me to the other parts of that environment, the chemical environment. We have control over the foods we eat. We have control over the environment in which we live in terms of its contaminants, the purity of the water that we drink, the air that we breathe. Those are issues, chemical issues, toxic issues that must be addressed. And last in that little cluster of environmental impacts, the biological world. Are we protected from viruses? Are we protected from parasites? Is our water clean? Are the bacterial free, and so on? So you say to yourself, okay, here's some genes, here's some physical, chemical, biological principles. We have control over many of those chemical processes. When somebody sticks a needle up their arm, they are changing the chemistry of their body and altering the nature of their genetic inheritance, just as if they smoked a cigarette and inhale that stuff, they are going to cause carcinogenesis. They're going to rip up the tissue of the... Those are conscious decisions. Don't tell me that the cigarette companies are responsible for you or me, but never you or me, because we don't do that, reaching for cigarettes or shooting up on dope or doing something stupid with our chemical environment.
You talked about sort of a personal things that you can change and then public things that you can change as a society that we affect.
Absolutely.
We know that people are susceptible to advertising.
Are you kidding?
From smoking companies, from everything else. My wife's an advertising copywriter. I see what she does every day. And so we know that. So as a society, there are things we can do to help people not get exposed, for example, to cigarettes, which I love as an example because it's such a detrimental thing that we do to ourselves, and legal somehow, even though it causes devastation. But then there's the personal decision when you put down your $3.50, which is what I'm told it costs in New York now to buy a pack of cigarettes, and you put that, no one has a gun to your head when you light the cigarette and put it in your mouth, yet it wreaks havoc on every part of your body.
All right. Now, let's talk about the underlying causes of all of this, because you and I think, believe, consciously and scientifically, that we are creatures of pleasure. Why do we do these things? Huh? Because somebody advertises it at you, and therefore you will do it because Big Brother told you to smoke or Big Mother told you to eat? Huh?
Well, no one ever tells you to smoke in an advertisement. What do they tell you?
Yes.
What are the gains you will get if you smoke?
No, they don't.
You'll look cool if
Yeah.
you smoke. Girls will like you if you
You'll be
smoke.
cool, that's right.
You'll look like the movie star in the 50s who
Right.
smoked. So it's for the secondary gain that they try and hook you into smoking. And then there's a physical addiction that we can talk
Is
about. But first
pleasure.
it's the pleasure.
But it's pleasure. But
Yes.
it's pleasure that, look, if you look consciously at what are the forces that are detrimental to health in America, they're all forces of self-abuse. Every one of them. And I want to start from the top, which we'll come back to at the, I hope, and talk either this or the 19th show down the road, is the issue of ignorance. Ignorance is self-abuse. Nobody wants to say, you want to blame that on the lousy teachers? You want to blame it on the lousy university? Is ignorance, what is ignorance? Ignorance is a function of an individual not taking the responsibility to learn. And if you are ignorant, you abuse yourself because then you don't know the knowledge that you need to optimize this human potential we're talking about.
And you're not talking about going to the university to study the molecular biology, so that you're talking about general knowledge even.
Can you pick up a morning newspaper and do a triage, as they say in medicine? What is real? What is unreal? What is surreal? That's education. That's knowledge.
When I came into the studio this morning, you had Science Times from the New York Times with you.
Yeah, right.
And you pulled it out, and I said, I get the New York Times. I read the Science Times this morning. Here you and I are professors at a university teaching, doing this, and we're still reading the Science Times so that we stay educated about all this. It's out there if you want to learn it.
Takes personal responsibility. It takes energy. You know, we were talking about knowing science. Everybody wants to believe in the tooth fairy. You know, the tooth fairy is going to come and put knowledge in my head. Everybody wants to believe that you get something for nothing. Huh? The lottery in California is getting something for nothing. People believe that. If you know the first law of thermodynamics, you know there is no way you can get something for nothing. One must invest personal energy and discipline into the process of learning.
Has medicine helped contribute to the concept that you can get something for nothing by the, here's the pill to make you better?
Well, David, I don't accuse medicine of this. Some of my best friends are real doctors, but in point of fact, I think there is a tendency that physicians have abused over the years. And I've taught in medical schools, and I really do have dearest friends who are physicians. There is that tendency to impart to the physician the magic of the shaman of a primitive tribe. To wit, the popular press and everything that we see about us, the media tell us about magic bullets. Huh? Who was it? Dr. Ehrlich was the first magic bullet, and then there was Fleming. And now everybody is waiting for magic bullets to do what? To absolve them of their personal responsibility. Let's go back even further in biological knowledge, which is something most people don't ever want to deal with, but I do it all the time. If you are alive, then you must die. The inevitability of death, okay? That sounds terribly tragic to talk about on this show, but in point of fact, it's well to be understood, because otherwise you're going to turn to physicians, you're going to turn to health food stores, you're going to turn to mystics and gurus who will promise you everlasting life. The only people I know who can do that are theologians, not biologists or physicians. So the question is not whether or not you're going to live or die. The question becomes, then, what is the quality of the life that we have to live? How do we optimize that quality of life? That comes back to that notion of the human potential. And there you need the knowledge.
Wait, I have to do something to optimize my life?
Yes.
It's not going to just come to me?
That Godot is not going to come. Maybe Godot will come tomorrow. That great Beckett play, which I love. I tell my students, graduate students under it, if you don't understand waiting for Godot, you don't understand yourself. Huh? And what am I here for? I'm here to teach students biology. It says so on my T-shirt, but in point of fact, I'm here to teach them about the joy, the pleasure manifest in learning.
Well, just like we do with this show and with other things that we do teaching, many times the facts, quote unquote scientific facts we have, are just our up-to-date knowledge or the material that we're sharing, but the thought process probably is more important than the facts. What we're talking about today is taking personal responsibility for your health,
Right.
but whether or not that means going out and taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, well, you know what? A year from now, or 2 years from now, or 10 years from now, we may find that changes, but the concept of taking responsibility for yourself will never change.
Correct. Very personal, very existential. People don't like, you know, it's very interesting. Everybody, I remember during the 60s, they brought me down to this campus from USC to do riot control duty on the plaza of Revelle College.
You stood with a pole and a shield? And
no, I just says, don't touch this university. Don't mess with this university. It's a precious place, okay? And so I was big enough I could get away with that stuff. But the notion that, the thing that made me think of this, Dave, was the kids were shouting, all power to the people. They wanted freedom, they said. Freedom to do their own thing. Never ever thinking about what are the responsibilities that make freedom meaningful and keep it apart from anarchy, which is chaos and disorder. That's that issue we're talking about, what? Bringing order in our heads, bringing order to our bodies, bringing order into an environment, into a society, into a culture, which allows each one of us to grow and at the same time encourages others at the same time. Health is an integral part of that. Education is an integral part of that. And in a very special way, spirituality is a very important part of that in the largest sense of that word. To have ethics and morals and values which come to us outside of the so-called epistemology or way of knowing of science. You and I grow up, we say, I'm a scientist, I'm a doctor, but in point of fact, we're human beings. And the moral and ethical issues and the values in our lives are not dictated by spectrophotometers and DNA sequences. They're quite otherwise evolved.
Absolutely. Let's get a little nitty-gritty.
Nitty-gritty.
A little, just a little.
Nitty-gritty 1A.
I had Dr. Bob Ross on the show once, who is the Director of Health and Human Services here in San Diego. And I submitted to him that I thought the two greatest advances in medicine might be hand washing and sewage control.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to throw this to you and say, what are the greatest things that people can to do in 1999 for themselves to impact their own health? Now, there's a lot of things people can do for lots of different reasons. And maybe it's stress, maybe it's food. I haven't asked you this question ever before, and I have no idea what you're going to say.
I don't
I'm
either,
really
but
curious.
I'm working on it.
So what can people do sitting at home right now to say, it's time for me to take responsibility for myself or for my child or for my elderly parent? What are the things that they should be thinking about doing right now?
They should be, more than thinking about, they should be doing activities such as reading a morning newspaper of a high quality and reading the science pages and listening to public broadcasting and not listening to the ads, but listening to the news and starting to ask questions with a critic's eye. What is the knowledge? What is the evidence that I have for that? So that you don't look for magic. And then you start saying to yourself, for example, as we talk about ourselves, most important things, I'll just take it out of the world of nutrition because I brood about this quite a bit. The most important nutritional problem in America today is obesity. That's number one. That's a major disease. 30% of the citizens of the United States, young and old alike, are far overweight, and that leads directly to coronary disease, stroke.
Wait, you're putting this in a personal responsibility category? Isn't that just genetics? Aren't you just born with the tendency to be overweight and there's nothing you can do about it?
It used to be when I was a kid, you'd say, my hormones made me fat. Now you're in the exotic age of molecular biology. Little kids run around the playground saying, don't pick at me for being fat, it's my genes. That's nonsense. You may have a genetic predisposition to obesity, and that's well known and well characterized. And we even know the biochemical mechanisms for that. But given that, it doesn't mean that you can't do something about it. If you reduce calories, and if you exercise, and if you modify your behavior, I don't care how bad your genes are, it may be tough to do, and you don't get to drink the chocolate malts and eat the Big Macs and so on. But you can do something about it, and by doing something about it personally, reduce your risk of the 6 biggest killers in a
Isn't there a pill for this? Can I go to my doctor and get that pill?
Why do you think fen-phen sold so well? Wasn't it a pity that it caused coronary disease?
Oops.
Oops. I would love to have a pill like that. But at the present time, there is no such pill. Don't wait for the pill. Don't wait for Godot. And by the way, it's not to say for people, you've got to go on some Ornish's diet or Pritikin's diet or somebody else's diet or Jenny Craig's foods. It says reduce the number of calories. Stop eating so much, eat foods that you like in small amounts, exercise, stand on a scale every day. Don't say my genes made me do it or I can't help it.
Your whole UCSD nutrition book, you open it up and there's hundreds of pages and the line says eat less, exercise more, and it's blank? The rest of it?
Oh no, the rest says why.
Why?
Why?
Okay.
That's the science part, you see. And the notion is, well, I can eat, I say you can eat Snickers, you can eat hamburgers, you can eat chocolate malt. You can eat fruits, veg, you should eat everything. I walk into a supermarket and I'm liberated, but I'm not allowed to be an anarchist. Can I eat all I want? No. Can I eat anything that's in a supermarket? Yes, in reasonable amounts. Okay.
Now, if we took somebody from 200 years ago,
yes,
one of the things I think they would be most shocked about is the supermarket.
Oh, my God.
To have one place to go for all that food and to have the availability of the spectrum of
Don't go back 200 years. Bring someone in from Africa, from South America. Bring people in from Europe today. They don't know the meaning of supermarkets like we have supermarkets.
So with the freedom of the supermarket comes the responsibility of eating intelligently.
A, B, eating joyously. Because food is sensuality. Food is love. Huh?
So I don't have to go read the menu and ask, what's the lowest fat thing you have here, even if it tastes like cardboard? I can enjoy what I eat?
Yes. But, my favorite story in this is the wonderful book, what was it called? The whole notion, the study that was made about the French diet. You remember? There, about 5, 6 years ago, everybody was talking fat in the diet. Fat in the diet. You guys, with white coats and stethoscopes and their names embroidered.
Fat makes you fat.
That's right. 30%. They would look up at the ceiling and they'd say 30%. You say God's own number.
That was the 11th commandment.
That's right. 30%. So somebody goes out and they start looking at the French diet. Why? Because the French had half the rate of coronary disease, they had half the obesity, and they had 45% calories from fat in their food, and their food was so good. Oh, they said, not to be nervous, it's the wine.
Absolutely. Now you have to eat less fat and drink more wine.
Yes, not so bad. But what is the issue? Does that mean I should drink a lot of wine? No, it says you shall drink reasonable amounts of wine because it has certain biological properties that are positive effectors of your life. You should eat foods that you enjoy in small amounts so the pleasure is not lost, because the moment, you know what it is, you say to a person, you see this in your own patients, yes. You can't eat that, you can't eat that, this is bad, this is good, and the moment your back is turned, or they think nobody's looking, they're pushing this in their mouth like it's a steam shovel. You can't do that. We should live in a world of freedom.
Well, we're going to make it easier to drink wine by putting vitamins in the alcohol.
I thought a lot about that. Once upon a time when I was a grad student, I used to hang out with some crazy kids over at Caltech, and we thought about making health food drinks that were predicated either on bourbon or scotch or gin, in which you would fortify
Like
with
every
vitamins.
graduate student
Every
thinks about,
graduate,
right.
you know that. But then it turns out there are federal laws that prevented it. Very interesting. You just reminded me to talk about this. So the feds say you can't fortify any food that is potentially dangerous, okay?
Well, but don't we have a label coming onto alcohol saying not only is it not dangerous,
It may be good. Write away for a book to the NIH, and we will send it to you. It's exactly what has happened with wine. Now, in point of fact, I think that's a reasonable label because the evidence now is clear. But everybody's screaming, well, doesn't that give people license to go out and become alcoholics? No.
because they have to be responsible for themselves?
Thank you
We're treating
very
them
much.
like adults again?
You know what I want to have happen, David? When I become the fascist dictator of America, in my right wing.
Can I vote for you?
Vote for me.
In that
I'm
fascist
going to have
election?
a sign. I'm going to have a sign over every supermarket and fast food joint in America. And it's going to say, beware, overconsumption of the products in this store may be deleterious to your health.
Why not? Why not?
What are we doing on a cigarette box? You think that the people who are smoking think that that's a health food?
I think
I
they realize
doubt it.
it's not. Although there are people who I know who smoke to increase their metabolic rate to stay thin.
It decreases appetite is what it really does, and the nicotine will increase the metabolism. But the price is so enormous, you may as well, you know, suck on a dinitrophenol.
You're trading away how many years of your life to
Thank
be
you.
thin? That doesn't make any sense.
Not to
right?
me. Not to me. But again, these are choices one makes. It's very interesting. When I brood about these matters, I say, why should the cigarette companies be responsible? Huh? The notion is, let the cigarette companies sell it. People who smoke it know this. But then I'm not to pay for their disease.
Oh, you're not a fascist. You're a libertarian.
No, but I can't tell the difference sometimes.
Well, this is the competent
I know
human that should be able to make an adult responsible decision,
Right.
and that we don't have to outlaw things. But as a society, it just doesn't work that way.
It
and like
doesn't.
we worked on sewage, like
Right.
we can work on preventing
Correct.
kids from being exposed to things they're not responsible, they're not ready to make decisions about, there are decisions that we make as a society that impact health. You showed me this morning from the Science Times, the elderly food pyramid.
Yeah.
Which I got a kick out of, saying that you initially opposed the food pyramid.
Still do.
And I said to you, I was shocked at this new pyramid because there was water on it.
God forbid.
and that's kind of what you said, is that how could you talk about diet without talking about water?
Right. And how could you create a pyramid where it was impossible to get the calcium that your body needed by 3 glasses of milk? You know, so I asked this of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they said, you just don't understand, Paul. It's, you know, it's not quite enough, but in point of fact, if we could just get them to do that, it would be okay. And I'm saying, no.
They were aiming low, weren't they?
They were aiming low. You do not tell me that there are good foods and bad foods, that the good foods are the grains and the bad foods are the milk and the dairy, and that fats and oils and sugar are bad. I love these people in the federal agencies who tell me that sugar kills. And I'm going, what? I thought you had to have sugar to live. If I don't have 120 grams of glucose equivalents a day, I'm in very serious metabolic problems. That's different. You should do that with complex carbohydrates. I said, so what's so good? Complex are different than simple carbohydrates and sugar. They go, how is that? Well, they're different. I go, I didn't know that. I thought that every molecule of a complex that I brought into my gut got broken down to a simple sugar before it ever saw the inside of my blood. They say, you're quibbling.
You're quibbling. You're quibbling.
I'm quibbling. And so I go, okay, baby, if you don't want to know, if you don't want to understand, it's going to be very difficult for me to help you. Otherwise, you're going to demand dogma.
Right. And we don't want dogma, we want science, and we want intelligence. Right. So now the federal government's saying things like that, but if you walk into a health food store or an herbal store, the guy behind the counter, who often knows much less than the federal government, is pointing you in the opposite direction for just as stupid reasons, that without science behind them, and saying to you, take this, it's not a drug, which I've never quite understood, because anything that impacts our bodies, you could classify as a drug, but somehow that's not a drug. And it's not coming from a doctor or from a medical person, so it must be okay. Is that what we've gone to because we've walked away from science and gone to dogma on this side?
Yes. If I promise you a magic bullet and I don't have one, then where do you turn?
To somebody who tells me they do.
I've got one. I got a magic bullet for you. And that's what they're doing. You know, it's very interesting. Why has there been this explosion in herbal medicines? It's very simple. A law was passed. And that was a federal law which said that if you don't claim that it's a medicine, if you only claim it's a nutrient additive, you can say anything you want, you can sell almost anything you want as long as it isn't toxic.
I still don't get what the difference between a nutrient additive and a medicine is.
Well, I think I could tell you that.
Okay.
I think I could discuss that with you. Let's see if we can kind of do a parsing on that.
All right, in the short time we have left,
Short
let's see
time.
what we can do.
Here it is. A nutrient is a chemical which is required by your body, either as a building block for one of the essential components of your body or as a source of energy. Simple explanation is to be found in total parenteral nutrition, where I put 47, 48 chemicals in a bag. I put the bag into your vein. I can grow you from a premature infant to an adult. 45, 46 chemical nutrients. That's a nutrient.
Okay.
Okay? What's a medicine? A medicine is a chemical compound and or some sort of a like an antibody or something else that you put in, or an immune response. It is a chemical situation in which you address a specific pathological problem with an antidote to it. That's my definition of a medicine.
Yet we all know when you walk into that herb store,
That ain't what they say.
that they say to you, this is good for your headache. This nutrient, quote unquote, is good for your stomach ailment. This will make you smarter. This will make you think better. This will stop you from getting Alzheimer's. This will blah, 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 blah. Those are medicines.
By me, they're a medicine. By you, they're a medicine. By federal law, they're not a medicine. You
Wow.
see, that's the notion of where legality, where societal values and ethics and morals and economics are playing out in a very powerful arena. The billions of dollars that are now being spent. I now open major popular magazines and finding drug companies that are advertising products to which they have added herbals, not because they're pharmacological research, it's for money, because if they don't put them in, nobody else is going to buy their product.
Next time you come on the show, can we talk more about that?
Anytime, I'd love to be here with you,
Well,
David.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Again, on Health Matters, we learn that knowledge is power, and you have the power to impact your own health and your own life. Take it, use it, learn it, do it. I'm Dr. David Granite, and we'll see you again next time on Health Matters.
Enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Yes.
Beautiful.